Hello everybody, welcome back. Today we'll try the impossible. I will try to show you and teach you the CAGED system in just a few minutes. I don't know how many minutes, but I will try to keep it as short and to the point as possible. And a lot has been written and said and recorded on video about the CAGED system. A lot of criticism has been thrown at it, which I find absolutely dumb. And there's full courses even on the CAGED system, and I think maybe it's getting a bit out of hand. So I will try to, bring it down to the most basic aspects of it. And like every or any scale system on the guitar, the CAGED system has its advantages and its disadvantages. The main advantage of the CAGED system is that you can play basically any scale you want in any key you want by knowing only two things. One is the root or tonic, so if you're in C, you gotta know where your C's are, and then you have to know the fingering. So memorize how to move your fingers. Other than that, you can play the scale. That is not the case with every system. If you play 3 notes per strings, or maybe octaves, or 4 notes per strings, if you play single strings, like I love to do, you have to know the actual intricacies of the scale. You have to know its formation. You have to know the notes that make it up. Otherwise, you won't be able to play. If I'm playing on a single string and I'm in C, I have to know that I need a D, an E, an F, and a G, where they are on the fretboard, and I have to be careful not to play any flats or sharps because C major doesn't allow them. But if I'm playing in B major, I have to know that it has a bunch of sharps, 5 to be exact, and where they fall on each string, and so on and so forth. The CAGED system says, you know what, as long as you know where your B's are, and you remember the correct fingering, you'll be playing within the correct key. So that's a great advantage of it. There are disadvantages, of course. The main one is that if you do that, you might get kind of complacent about it and go like, you know what, I don't need to know anything. I can just wiggle my fingers and I'll be in key. And you'll be missing out on a lot of great stuff. But you can still then later decide to learn the harmony and the structure and the formula and all that. You can still learn. You can learn the fretboard, right? It's not that the CAGED system says, you know what, you can't. Just use the root and use the fingering and do not learn what notes make up a scale. That's nonsense. And then eventually keep also this in mind. When you learn enough methods, when you see enough patterns, when you learn about the fretboard, you will actually forget all these systems. You won't need them anymore. These are just a way of getting you to understand the instrument you have at the end of your fingers. It could be a piano, it could be a clarinet, or a flute, or it could be a guitar. And once you master it, then all these systems will kind of fall back, and they might save you if you get stuck or forget things once in a while, but usually you'll have complete control of any key in any scale. Until then, what if you have a student who really wants to improvise and he wants to write her or his own melodies? Well, then give them a scale they can use. They don't have to necessarily know that the 6th is flat or the 4th is sharp. Just let them play with the sounds, and they might actually end up making incredible music, and they don't have to know everything the first day. So anyway, let's get to the system itself. CAGED, you might have noticed, is made up of 5 letters, C, A, G, E, and D, which coincide with notes, and we'll see that in a second. And it also means, of course, caged as in enclosed, and it's fitting for this method because all these positions, you'll notice when we get to them, they're pretty tight and they're pretty delineated by a few frets, maybe 4 or 5 frets. They don't get, crazy wide. They're really within strict boundaries, and so it makes complete sense. But what we're interested in now is actually those 5 note names. We've talked about the importance of the root. It's really all about the root. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to decide on a scale, and for this video we'll stick to major, and we're going to decide on a key, and we'll stick to C major. C major is made up of only natural notes, no sharps and no flats. Of course, everything you learn in C can be applied to everything else, so it's not like you're stuck in C major. But let's find all the C's, all the roots or tonics on the fretboard. We'll find one on the 1st fret of the 2nd string, one on the 3rd fret of the 5th, then there's one here on the 5th fret of the 3rd string, then on the 6th and 1st string, which are tuned the same, we have on the 8th fret. Let's see again. And the last one is on the 10th fret of the 4th string. If we continue to the 13th fret of the 2nd, we're basically back to 1 because everything repeats after the 12th fret. So this is what we're going to be using. And now that we have that, we're just going to take pairs of them. So we're going to pair these two together, these two, I mean it's 3, but 1st and 6th string are the same, then these, and then these. And if I were to go one more, I would go back again to the first pair. So there's only 5 possible pairings of these roots. If we look at the shape of these roots, we might be reminded of something. And if you're not, I'll help you out. So let's look at the first one. The first pair is this. A lot of you will remember this from the early days of your guitar playing adventure. This is probably one of the first chords you ever learned, C major. Right? In C major, one of the most common and easier open chords, you have these roots. And so we're going to call this shape C. It's the shape of C because the roots are in the same position, the same configuration as a C major open chord. If we take now the next pair, so they share always one of them, so this is the shared one, the 3rd fret of the 5th, and then we go to the next one, which is the 5th fret of the 3rd. These again are Cs. Now if I were trying to do the same as I did before, try to relate it to an open chord, to a very basic open chord, I would see that it reminds me of an A. And you might not see it here, but let's make it even simpler. Let's walk it back until we reach the open string. Now this, you notice, is the same root as your basic A major chord, or A minor. I mean, it's all roots, so it doesn't make any difference, but this is again one of the most easier chords, and it's an A, and it has the same root configuration as your 2nd position. Now, of course, the 2nd position is in C, so we have to move it up to the correct root or tonic, but it's in the same shape as that chord, right? This is an A chord, just move to the key of C. Let's keep going, it will make even more sense. The next pair, which is actually 3 notes, is 8th fret, 5th fret, and 8th fret. You look at it this way, you might go, okay, I don't see it. Let's walk it back to the open string again. Down, 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 until I'm out of frets, right? Does this remind you of something? A lot of you might have said G, right? It's the same roots configuration as a very basic G major chord from your first week of owning a guitar. Now again, because I'm playing in the key of C, this will have to be moved so that the roots coincide with the C we want. But you can see this. This is a G major chord just transposed to C. So we got the C, we got the A, we got the G. You might have guessed now, the next one, it's an E, right? If I move it all the way down to the open string, that's the shape of E. And then the 5th one, you might see it or you might not, but let's make it simple. Let's walk it down, 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 down. We got open string and 3rd fret. You remember this? Your D major chord. Well, of course, we'll have to move it up all the way until we find the C, and this takes us to these 2 roots. Now, I'm playing major chords, but it doesn't make any difference if I play minor or anything, because we're only worried about the roots. Everything else will depend on the scale we're going to play, right? So the roots is the important thing. And so now we're left with 5 discrete positions, which are limited and delineated by pairs of tonics, and they remind us, these pairs, of 5 basic open chords: C, A, G, E, and D. And that's where the name comes from, C-A-G-E-D. Now, the name C-A-G-E-D refers, and I want to be clear about this just one more time, refers to the shape, not to the actual note. This is the shape of A, but we're in the key of C, right? If I were to play in E, this is E, it's an E major chord, but we're still in the shape of A, okay? So C, A, G, E, D are the shapes, is the chord that it reminds you of. And so now, for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to change the names of C, A, G, E, D to numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, that's what I call them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I'm playing a second position, it's always going to be with the roots in this configuration. If I'm in C, this is my C second position. If I'm in F, this will be my F second position. And if I'm in B flat, this is my B flat second position. All right, the position comes from the configuration of roots, of the little pair that we use. Now that we have our roots figured out, we have to know how to basically fill them up, these positions. We got the roots, but what about every other note? And so we're going to start in C major because it's the simplest scale, because it has no sharps and no flats. And it's actually this simple. We have our roots, which show us where we're going to play. So in first position, this is where we are. And all we have to do is get all the natural notes, no sharps and no flats, and add them to this position. So literally we go E, can I play it? Yes. Can I play the F? Yes. Can I play the F sharp? No, I'm only looking for natural notes. So can I play the G? Yes. And you keep going like this until you fill up all 6 strings within these frets. And so this is actually our first position of the CAGED system. I find it useful to also play 12 frets higher, just so you're used to not having an open string. And that's it. That's your first position for a major scale, in this case, in the key of C. Now, what if I want to move it to another key? Let's say F. As long as I know where to look for my roots, because this is the configuration of first position, I will walk my way down to F. These are Fs. And as long as I remember the correct fingering, it has to be the same fingering, then I'll be playing F major. Now the beautiful thing is that F major is a different scale than C major. It has a flat, for example, which C major doesn't have. I might know that it's a B flat, or maybe I'm newer to the guitar and I don't know that it's a B flat. But the CAGED system will say, don't worry about it. Just play the correct fingering in the correct place, and the B flats are taken care of for you. You don't have to know that the B is flat. I'm going to give you one more example. Let's go back to C major, first position. These are my roots. Let's go to E. Let's make it E. So I work my way down to E. These are E's, and I played the correct fingering, which is the same as ever. Well, check this out. E major has 4 sharps. So between this scale in C major and this one in E major, 4 notes are different, but I know about it, but if I didn't know, I would still be playing the correct notes. Now on a piano, for example, if you want to play E major, you have to know what black keys to hit. You can't just hit any 4 black keys. You gotta get the right ones. But here, it's already done for you. If you want to go in and find out, it is the correct ones. It's F, C, G, and D. But if you don't know about it and somebody's jamming in E, and you want to just follow your ear and improvise, you've got it. Okay, so that's the point of the CAGED system. Now this was the first position. I'm going to show you the other 4 positions. Again, we're going to go back to C, but now that you've seen how you can move them in the first position, is the same exact thing. At the end of the 5 positions, I'll demonstrate a couple more. So this is our first pair for first position. Let me just play it again. Now, if we go to the next pair, the second position, the one that reminds us of an A, these are the notes that fit in C major. Again, as long as I memorize the fingering, it's taken care of. They're the right notes, no sharps, no flats. If I go to the next pair, third position, the G position, this is the fingering. Then there's the fourth. And the fifth. You can see now I reach my 12th and 13th fret, which means if I keep going, I'm back in first position. So that's it, I'm done. Now, a beautiful thing about this is that when I go, for example, to another key, and we'll do D major now, everything will just shift. So if I learn that this is my C major position and then this is my second position, I'll find the same relationship in any key. So this is my first of D, and this is my second of D. They still overlap in exactly the same way. They still fit the same idiosyncrasies I might have in my phrasing. Right? This will work in D as well as it will work in G. They're wildly different scales. Well, not D and G, they're not that different, but they are different scales. They have different notes. But to my fingers, it's the same thing. I'm going to give you a couple more examples. Fourth position of C major. If I want to play it in, let's do A flat. Let's make it a bit more difficult. A flat, all I have to do is find my C's, move them down to an A flat, and play the same exact fingering. I'll have the correct 4 flats for this scale, and it will all be taken care of. All right? So that's the idea. Now, you might have questions about what if it's a different scale? What if instead of major it's minor? What if it's a mode? What if it's a Lydian dominant scale? It doesn't matter. Let's take Lydian dominant. If I said Lydian dominant, it's a beautiful scale, and you might have to figure out what the correct fingering for that scale is. Let's say second position, D Lydian dominant. Okay? This is always my second position. It's always the A shape. Now, if I want to play major, I'll have a fingering. If it's minor, I have another fingering. If it's Phrygian dominant, it will have yet another fingering. But as long as I know it, the scale is the correct one. It has the right sharps and flats. And if I move it to any other key, I want to play G now, Lydian dominant, I can still do the same thing where the G's are, and I would get the correct scale. All right, so it's not like you don't have to do any work. You still have to know the fretboard, you have to know where your roots are, and you have to know the correct fingering for those pairs of roots. But as long as you know that, you're pretty much able to play anything. Now, do I advise you to stay there comfortably? No. Eventually, you do want to know what you're playing. There's so many reasons. The easiest one to grasp is that if you want to stop playing solos all the time and maybe play some chords, you won't even know what chords, what notes to build those chords on. You have no idea what you're actually doing. You have no idea of the harmonic context of your scale. But for several usages, the CAGED system is just unbelievable. There are many other advantages, but really I'm not here to convince you, as you know by now on this channel. I'm here just to give you the tools and my advice. And my advice is that you go deep with the CAGED system at your own pace, of course. And eventually, there are limits to what a video can do. Feel free to ask questions below, of course. I'm happy to make more videos. As some of you know who are my students, I take on online students as well as in person. So wherever you are in the world, we can figure it out if you want to, but or find a good teacher or a great teacher, better still, in your area. And that's, of course, the best way of getting better, to interface with other musicians or a great teacher. This will really help. But this will get you at least to understand why the CAGED system is a certainly valid way of understanding the fretboard. I love to do more of this, maybe on other systems. I have certainly used and taught the 3 notes per string system. I do a lot of single string playing, and you know, each of these systems requires some previous work, and so it's extremely interesting. If you'd like me to go deeper or, you know, on a tangent, please do let me know in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you'd like to check out my Patreon below, there's a link, and I look forward to seeing you very soon.